Actor Marcus Rutherford, who plays our gentle giant of a blacksmith, Perrin Ibarra, will be joining us. Plus, we'll be breaking down some exclusive behind-the-scenes footage and diving deep into the first 3 episodes with our fellow Wheel of Time fans. And stick around for some exclusive shots of next week's episode. Welcome to the massive first episode of Amazon's official after show, Inside the Wheel of Time. I'm your host and innkeeper, Matt Hatch. Aes Sedai, False Dragons, Trollocs? Let's get inside episode 1. All it took was 2 mysterious strangers, whispers on the wind, and a brutal attack by creatures of the dark to wake up this quaint town of the Two Rivers. There we meet the innkeeper's daughter, Egwene Alvir, our hometown sheepherder, Rand al'Thor, and their 2 friends, the gentle blacksmith, Perrin Ibarra, and down on his luck, Mat Cauthon. Under immense pressure, all leave together, but which of these 4 will survive to become the Dragon Reborn? And what of the rest? With the wisdom dragged away and the town destroyed, can we trust Moiraine Sedai and Lan Mondragoran? That's why I'm so glad I have Marcus Rutherford, who plays our Two Rivers blacksmith, Perrin Ibarra, to discuss how it all went down. Marcus, thank you for sitting down with us.
No worries, man. Of course, it's wicked to kind of be promoting season 1 finally. It's taken a little while to get to this stage, but no, it's really exciting.
We're all excited. It's I think I saw today. Everyone's like, there'll never be another month in their lifetimes that there wasn't a Wheel of Time TV show.
Yeah, man. No, exactly.
So tell us, how did it feel to be cast as Perrin Ibarra in the Wheel of Time?
Yeah, man, it was weird. I was working on a different show actually at the time in the UK. And my agent was like, "Look, there's this big Amazon fantasy series that, it's very limited details that we can give at the moment, but I really think you should go for it. There's this sort of quiet, big, sort of gentle giant kind of character that I think you'd be wicked for." And then a couple of weeks later and a few chemistry reads down, I found out what it was for. I was casting under completely different names. It was like Peter from Twin Mountains, and it was all kinds of different stuff. And slowly you would pick it. I was like, okay, I think I might be cast for this guy. But it was amazing, man. And then obviously I realized how big the community was and how many books had been sold and how there was this community out there already. So it was very, very exciting, man.
You talk about him being a gentle giant. Is that your favorite aspect of Perrin, or what are your favorite characteristics of Perrin?
That is a side that I do particularly like, but I think there's a patience to him and a very considered thoughtfulness that I really like. In this series as well, there's amazing action and stunts. Usually in fantasy, the big guy's always there, ready to pick up weapons and cause damage. But I think Perrin in particular has a inner monologue where he thinks about what he's doing. And he thinks of all the outcomes, and is this the best solution? And there's a real thoughtfulness there that I think is quite refreshing in fantasy. It's always wicked to see people, pick up weapons and start fighting and doing stuff. But I think to have quite a big guy who's constantly thinking, should we be doing this? I think is quite a modern way to look at particularly warfare or things like that. So I think he's a character that's got a lot to him, I think.
And this first episode, there's this tragic accident where Perrin kills his wife. How did this affect you, and how has this kind of informed your performance throughout the season?
When I read the first script for the first episode, I was reading Eye of the World at the time, or I'd finished it, and so I knew, this was obviously quite a big change to the show and to Perrin's character. And I spoke to Rafe about it, and we kind of discussed things, and I think he really wanted a motivation for everyone's behaviour in the show, and a real kind of reasoning for their demeanour and their attitude towards certain things. And one of Perrin's key element of his character is this kind of troubled conquest with violence and how he can navigate that. I think having a particular moment that we have in that first episode not only gives me as an actor and the character, but I think it gives audience a real sense of understanding for his behaviour as it develops later on. I just wanted it to feel very, very real, if I'm honest. Just at that moment, I wanted it to feel as real as possible. And I know it's going to be quite a bit of a shock for some people, and that's completely understandable. But I think for Perrin's journey and his arc, I think it's going to do wonders, really. And I can already kind of see where he's going, doing season 2 now and stuff. It's really, really exciting.
Now, other than preparing for that scene, you're a blacksmith.
Yes.
What did you do to prepare to become a blacksmith?
The magnitude of this show is a bit ridiculous. So they obviously built like a forge for me, which I was kind of just in for quite a lot in Two Rivers, which, you know, I could kind of use and just chill out in. But then in the studios, or some of the studios here in Prague, they have sort of metal workers and stuff, these kind of old Czech kind of blacksmiths who are just like, they don't really say anything, they're really quite serious, but they're just amazing at what they do. I hung out with them for a bit and just kind of watched them work. And then weirdly, it was almost like quite fatalistic, where I stayed in Prague. Across the street was like, there was like a blacksmith sort of workshop just like across the road. So I'd kind of pop in there when I started. It was so weird. It was like across the street. I was like, have you placed me here like on purpose? And obviously for Helena as well, who plays Layla, for both of us, we kind of went to like this blacksmith workshop, tried our hand at it. So that was really fun.
Okay, everyone has to know now. Have you made something at the forge before?
I want to say I finished off, but he was kind of making this sort of actual like axe at the time, if I'm honest. It was like the very final stages, so I kind of got in like a few like hits into it. So like I can't really claim that I made, and I know that soundbite of like the first thing Perrin made was this axe. Sounds amazing, but well, it was me and Helena as we went in. He was finishing off this piece of work that we did. I think might have been late for later in the season, maybe like the Shanchan or something. But it was. Yeah, that's kind of what I helped to make. That was like my first attempt at it, so that was pretty cool.
I think it's cool. I mean, the soundbite of the first thing Perrin helped to make was an axe is still a great soundbite.
It's still, yeah, it's still got a ring to it, definitely, yeah, definitely.
Rafe shared the story of you and Yosha and Barney going off, renting a car out to the countryside, unbeknownst to maybe the cast and crew. How important to you has it been to create bonds with your co-stars during these seasons?
Yeah, man, it's been really important. You know, obviously it was quite a long shoot initially, but because of COVID, we were kind of shut down twice. So it kind of took a long toll to get this done. Yeah. You have to be working with people that, you know, you really get on with and trust, and it's been an amazing group of people, and not just within the main cast, but the kind of the cast of characters who come in who are equally or not even more important sometimes to the story and how it evolves. You know, they're from all around the world, and you're learning from people constantly. I think there was that kind of young naivety that kind of resonated with like there being these young kind of folk from this village, but I think we all had this real sort of like ambition to do well, and I think that kind of almost relates to like the stubbornness of the Two Rivers as well. And I think yeah, we all just seem to get on with each other really well.
I feel like I can speak for fandom here. I know how much we all appreciate the sacrifice for you, all the time you're spending away from family, and especially during kind of these difficulties that we've had. Much love from fandom to all of you for putting in the work and actually bringing us the show. Really appreciate that.
I know, I appreciate you saying that, man. That means a lot. Thank you.
Now to really dive deep into the Wheel of Time, I'm joined by Daniel Green, Rhythma, and Critter. How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Really good.
Okay, I have to ask this. First impressions here, Critter, of episode 1 of the Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime.
I mean, first impression, mind-blowing. I honestly could not believe that I got to see it in the first place. I've been fan casting this show with my friends since high school, and so seeing it on a screen is like, literally, it's a dream come true.
This was incredible. I read Wheel of Time when I was 12 years old, so to be like 23 years old a decade later, watching Wheel of Time on my screen was incredible, and I'm so excited to talk about it with y'all today.
There's a specific image of a Trolloc bellowing in victory, and it just kind of felt similar to me internally. There's just this feeling of like, we're finally here. I've been following the development of the show since it was first announced back when I was in college, I believe, and so it's just been an absolute marathon.
I need to see you in a Trolloc costume. That's the thing that has to happen now. I love all your first impressions of this, but I want to kind of jump in here. I think all of you have mentioned just being excited about seeing this for the first time. Rhythma, which was, of all the characters, of all the performances you had, which one stuck out to you most?
I have to go with Egwene. Egwene is my favorite character, and I think that Madeleine Madden did such a fantastic job just embodying her nuances in the books. She's such a like strong character, and I was worried that wouldn't come through in the show, but it absolutely did. And I just love how Egwene is so kind-hearted but also strong at the same time, and I think Madeline Madden just embodied her so well.
I think the performances are the strongest element of the show here, and Matt just absolutely stole my heart. He's more tragic now in his origin, coming from a family that's a bit more destitute, with parents that seem to be not great, and instead he now has this like protective relationship with his siblings, which of course is just going to endear you to the character of Matt instantly. Like, who doesn't love someone who's devoted to taking care of their siblings? It's to the point where he's like stealing that bracelet, yet I'm still like, you're a good dude, which is an odd conflict to have inside of me.
Honestly, I think everybody did an amazing job, but I always thought that Rosamund was going to kill this, just absolutely slay it. And I was right. I mean, it started on this super serious tone with her doing a voiceover, and then you eventually see her with the big entrance, and Daniel Henney kind of announces her, and their dynamic together is just powerful. And I love how it's not romantic, it's intimate. The bathtub scene, you know, most people would be like, oh man, you know, what's about to happen here? And then literally it's just like besties sitting in a tub together, and you felt it, and the chemistry was there. So I think they're great. Honestly, I think Marcus Rutherford was great. I think they're all great.
From a chemistry standpoint, Daniel, for you, what did you notice as far as episode 1? Where did you see the most chemistry happen between characters?
Our three main boys are some wool-headed idiots, as the books likes to put forth, and I think they captured that friendship bond so fantastically. Just their chemistry right away. I felt that these people were friends and they had grown up together, and I don't know, that's such a key element going forward for this whole season to work.
I love the scene where Perrin and Rand put together some money for Matt. I love just like, that's exactly what they would do. Like, they wouldn't let their Betty hang, you know? It was a great scene to like sort of demonstrate their friendship.
Egwene and Rand, for me, I'm on the ship. I don't know what we want to call them, like Randween.
Oh no.
I mean, Egg-and, what do we call them? Eggwand? I don't know, whatever they are, I'm obsessed. Honestly, they are so cute together. It's something about like growing up together and having like crushes on each other that develop and, you know, grow up into like real world relationships. And whenever they had their little, I'm gonna go to college, we should probably break up talk, I was like, this is so real. Even though it's, you know, her becoming a wisdom's apprentice, I'm in love with them. I want to see them thrive together, even though it doesn't at this point look too good for them. But I guess we'll see.
I didn't expect this to go so hard on making Perrin go through so much trauma so fast, but I found the most striking image to be him walking out of his forge after presumably spending hours with the wife he just killed and laying her down, and then seeing the other characters reacting to that. But in terms of delivering an emotional moment, that one hit me pretty hard.
When I say I gasped, that might be an understatement. Honestly, it was like a visceral like and that scene was insane.
I was kind of shocked. Like, honestly, talk about another turning of the wheel. It was definitely a departure from what I was expecting. I think it put me in a good headspace, I guess, in terms of like watching the show. I kind of realized like, okay, so this is gonna be its own thing. It was definitely a huge surprise for sure.
I felt for Perrin in that moment, and I can't say I know what he felt like, but I know that sensation of just the overwhelming recognition of consequence. Definitely one of the biggest pieces of this, and it speaks to trauma. And I don't think that we can walk away from that topic. I mean, the destruction and the battle of Winter Night or at Beltane. I want to jump into that here. Critter, for you, Winter Night, were you surprised? Is this what you imagined in your mind? How did the attack go over for you?
It was different. In the books, you get mainly Rand's perspective, which we got some of. Back at the farm, it was more creepy, it was more suspense. Back in the Two Rivers, the town, it was chaos and fireballs and slaughter and brutality. Like, I cannot say that I was prepared for that. It was a spectacle. So exciting to watch. They went through some stuff. I worry for their mental health going forward.
As soon as Winter Night started, I've been saying for years, I really want this to be something horrific, and the fact that it starts with just like something protruding from someone and Egwene being like, what? And then it's just a bloodbath that went far gorier than I thought it would. It's just all my preaching of like, there is horror in Wheel of Time just come to life. And that takes me to the design of the Fade, which I really enjoyed, and the actual effort put forth to put a lot of diversity into the look of the Trollocs, which didn't have to be done, but I really appreciate it being there. I could be mistaken, but I believe we saw a bird boy, which I love me a bird Trolloc. Way to go.
I knew it was coming, obviously, because I read the books, but I was still, like, surprised and taken aback when Egwene is dancing with Tom and he just gets stabbed in the back, and I was like, whoa, I was fully in, like, the quaint country dance mode, and I was, like, getting into the music, which, by the way, the music in this episode was absolutely fantastic. Shout out Lorne Balfe. I was like, wow, this cute little dance, and then, like, the switch up from, like, the quaint country dance to, like, slasher film, like, definitely took me by surprise. And I think one of my favorite parts of Winter Night was that shot of, like, all the women, like, ganging up on a Trolloc, because to me that is, like, Wheel of Time. In essence, is just, like, a bunch of women stabbing a Trolloc and working together. I love that scene. It was definitely traumatic for the characters, but I was having a great time.
Critter, when it came to channeling, how did it strike you when it came to actual seeing channeling on screen for the first time?
It was beautiful, honestly. It was visually stunning. The fact that we could see the weaves, what was going on around her, you could kind of tell that she was putting something together. You know, it wasn't just like an automatic, like, flick of a wand. All the while, like, Lan can kind of sense what she's thinking. You know, they've got this sense about them where they work so well as a team, and in doing that, they're just like these gorgeous fighters. Honestly, like, it's literally a dance. And I know Rosamund Pike in an interview that she did said that she always thought of channeling as somewhat of a dance because the movements are important to people, and I think she really nailed it. And then all of a sudden there'd be a fireball, you know, which was great. So it was thrilling to see on all the different types of channeling. Honestly, the fireballs were great, but, you know, eventually we see other stuff too, and it's all really great.
I mean, it's pretty satisfying to watch a Trolloc get smacked in the face with a boulder. That's just something I've been imagining since I was 11 or 12 and first picked up The Eye of the World. And so seeing that line of Trollocs, like, challenge Moraine and Lan, and then they're just like, challenge accepted, let's see what we can do. It was pretty great, and it felt very tense. Like, I've read the books, I know how it ends, but it still managed to convey that tension to me of this is Shadow Spawn, so there's weight to this fight.
Brother, I wanted to ask you about the Two Rivers itself, right? We see this destruction happen, which is really sad because they do a great job of embedding us in the Two Rivers, I think. That's what they did with starting off with the women's ceremony. What stood out to you about this women's ceremony in the Two Rivers?
Oh yeah, I got really emotional and overwhelmed. When I first watched that ceremony, the visual of all these women standing behind Egwene as she went through this kind of scary ceremony where she has to jump off a cliff quite literally, and Nynaeve saying to her, to be a woman is to be alone and to never be alone, like, that just really got to me.
You just brought up an amazing quote, Rhythma. Daniel, is there a quote that stuck out to you as you were watching this first episode?
For me, probably the most notable quote would be between Matt and Padan Fain, which I really enjoyed the chemistry of those two. They're both acting like scumbags, and just that ending of pleasure doing business with you, or something along those lines from Padan Fain, it really fits Padan Fain's character, and I won't get into any more spoilers, but that's Padan Fain.
The one that hit the hardest for me, it was when Lan comes in and he's like, I'm Lan Mandragoran, and this is Moraine. And I'm just like, oh god, you know, you're just like ready for it. So even though it's not like terribly substantial, it hit. He delivered it perfectly. And then she walks in and it's just like, okay, the story has started. And I love that.
Yeah, nothing subtle about it.
Nothing.
You just walked right in. I love that. When it comes to the end of this episode, what questions are you asking yourself at this point in episode 1?
As a fan, kind of hitting this point, you see so much ground covered, and, you know, episode 1 had a lot of baggage it needed to do for world building and setting things up, and it just had that feeling of, oh, now we're leaving the safe zone, and that was the safe zone's destroyed, and now we're getting out of there. And it was just, I remember first reading Eye of the World and having that exact same feeling of, like, there's this comfy little cozy pocket. It was so away from all the problems of the world, and that's been violated so viciously. And I think the show captured, I think, one of Robert Jordan's best narrative beats of that book, which is to set up this Shire-esque, really whimsical location and then just destroy that space and throw our protagonists into this world, which we know from the back talk and the stuff going on in the background is a dangerous, villainous place.
Critter, are you asking yourself any other questions when it comes to them standing there and Moraine telling them they have to leave?
No, because this is what I'm used to. I'm a fantasy fan. This is the hero's journey. So we've got, Gandalf. We've got Moraine coming in, yanking our protagonists out of their quintessential little quaint village or whatever. Basically, I'm not asking myself anything. I'm just ready for what's next and excited.
Rhythma, who is the Dragon Reborn?
Wait a minute. It could be anyone at this point. Like, we don't know. It could be anyone. So I really love that about the show. I think that they did a great job of really setting up each person as a potential candidate for the Dragon Reborn. So we don't know who the Dragon Reborn is yet. I know, but you don't know.
It's a new turning. I don't know if you even know, Rhythma.
We had about a week of long night shoots doing the big Trolloc battle, which is very technical, it's very demanding, and it's been a great adventure.
We're actually getting the cast in at least 5 weeks before we start filming to rehearse.
With the cast, we've been slowly building them into a stunt performer shape because they're going to expect them to do a lot. So everyone's going to be tired, but it's going to pay off in the end.
I loved hearing about your connection. I think it was during New York Comic Con. You had this connection with your horse.
Oh, yeah.
But it's early on that Perrin has a connection with a different animal. It's wolves. And so I'm kind of curious, have you had an opportunity to work with the wolves on set?
Yeah, I mean, we're very lucky that even though there's amazing visual effects and stuff on this, a lot of this is kind of done as much as possible in camera. You kind of see with the Trollocs and even the fades, like some of the prosthetics and stuff they do is ridiculous. And with the wolves, they are actually these like Czech wolf dogs, sort of hybrid that they have out here. It just means that, for a particular relationship that obviously Perrin has with them, it's very obviously embryonic in this first season. He's trying to figure out what that relationship is, but having a real animal to kind of act against and to kind of interact with and to kind of build a relationship with is invaluable, really. It just meant for such a crucial part of that character's journey, having a real animal there to kind of feel that connection with and to feel that bond has been amazing. And I think that was a real key decision that Rafe wanted early on, not to just have me rolling around with CGI wolves for a season, which could look sick, but I think there's a real kind of tactile authenticity to having a real animal there.
So you get to be really close and kind of up close and personal with the wolves. And just what's that like?
It's amazing, man. And they're like so well trained. It's actually like quite scary. They like hit their marks. They can like look off the camera. They'll lie down like 10 times better than me. Like they're doing it in like one take. And I'm like, this is really embarrassing. It's kind of similar with when you get your horse. Like you start to build a relationship with these animals. Obviously, in particular with Perrin and that journey. It just helps it so much to have something there to act against.
Have you always been an animal lover or just become one through this role?
I think I've become one, I wasn't like anti-animals, but I've just, with the horses and the wolves, I'm a bit like Dr. Dolittle now.
Perrin as Dr. Dolittle is going to hit me. I love it.
Spin-off show no one's ever asked for.
Everyone's going to be asking for it now.
There we go.
Now, you and I both know the Wheel of Time is all about journeys.
Yes.
This just as like this one you've lived for the last 2 years. What have you learned about yourself during this epic journey of becoming Perrin Ibarra?
Just like trust your instincts, really. It was a very new world for me coming into this, and it was a huge machine in terms of Amazon and the size of the show and the fan base that already existed. I've kind of realised that whatever you did in that initial audition or all those kind of things is what Rafe and the people kind of resonated with. So I think it's quite easily to get caught thinking of different ideas, but I think just to trust your instincts and as I kind of read the books and we get the scripts in for the season, kind of just really getting an idea of who this character is, where he's going, and his trajectory, and to just trust what your initial thoughts are about it. And I think that kind of trust your instincts, I think, is can be applicable for anything really, but not just Wheel of Time specifically.
Now, you've brought up reading the books a couple times. Has that caused any problems for you? You know, this idea of reading ahead and knowing kind of the parent's journey, or has it helped you kind of bring Perrin to life?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, I kind of realised when I got the scripts that there was going to be some changes quite early on. So I kind of knew not to just kind of like be so stuck to the books that if anything changed, it would completely throw me. But I knew you've got that much source material there. And in particular, I think the amazing thing about Robert Jordan is he can just go into so much detail that you obviously can't do in the scripts. Yeah. And I think as an actor, if you've got all this material there to help you, you know, or to even just bounce in between the scripts and the books, it's only just really, really helpful to, when you go on set, you feel best prepared.
I want to leave you this final question. You know, if you could describe where your character's at in 3 words at the end of season 1, what would it be?
Ooh. I'd say he's guilty. I'd say he's conflicted, learning. That sounds a bit not as good as the other two. Doesn't have as good ring. Doesn't have a good ring to it. Yeah, I think hopefully there's an element of like naivety that I think washes away from the Two Rivers kids throughout that season as Moraine drags them into this, you know, hectic world outside their village and Edmonds Field. Then they're constantly learning more about themselves and the world outside and this prophecy that they're, you know, all woven into.
Are there any funny stories from the set that you can share with fans?
There was, when we wrapped one day, I think we might have gone shut down because of COVID, I can't remember, but Yosha, quite impulsive, quite strong-headed, very Rand-like, just decided to shave his head because he thought, okay, we're finished, I'll shave my head. And then we were all hanging out and we were like, you know, you've got like 3 more scenes to film, right? And he's just like, he's proper like Vin Diesel'd it off, like it's gone. He was just like, what do you mean? And we were like, oh my God, we're gonna have to get you an extra wig, and oh my God, we're gonna have to VFX it. And then it got to a point where he was like talking to his managers in Dutch, and I was like, okay, it's gone way too far. We need to say that we're joking. But, yeah, it's. I would say that a lot of that comes from Rafe. I'll be honest. Rafe, he's captaining the ship, and it's a very big responsibility that he does so well. But he's always got time to pull a prank or to be the silly one.
I got to dig into that now more with Rafe. I got to find out what these are. I love that.
Yeah, he's terrible. Ask him. He's just an absolute prankster.
Okay. That's a good little nugget to hold on to. I love it.
Yes.
Hey, Marcus, thank you so much for joining us inside the Wheel of Time. I've really appreciated this. This has been so fun.
Thank you for having me. And like I said, I think like my mum and dad watch your videos, man. And,
are you serious?
Yeah. No, they're big. They're always like, we're on the dusty wheel. I appreciate everything you do for the community. And like you said, you've been very, very open-minded and very patient to the show, and it's been that support has been felt fully. So I appreciate everything you do, man, and hopefully everyone likes the show.
That means a lot. And now knowing your parents are watching, no pressure. You just gave me a ton of pressure.
Yeah. They'll be in the comments, just like.
Oh, great! Now I gotta wonder like the polls I ask and all those sorts of questions. Now I'm wondering like.
Oh my God! Yeah. There'll just be like the 2 people going like, "Parents are favorite." It's probably my mum and dad in the comments. That's it. That's probably it.
That is the greatest. Thank you very much. Actually, thank you sincerely for sharing that with me. I'm glad that they've found a place among the other fans enjoying talking about the show. It's been my pleasure, honestly, and so has this. So thank you very much for joining. Can't wait till we get to chat again, Marcus. This has been great.
No worries, man.
Okay.
Of course, anytime.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon, for
Pleasure.
sure. Weep, weep, weep for Manetherin. Let's get inside episode 2. A Trolloc army on their heels, an innocent ferryman drowns, and a White Cloak burns an Aes Sedai at the stake. As Moraine's injuries worsen, Perrin shackled with guilt, and nightmares invade their sleep, the bonds that connect Egwene, Rand, Mat, and Perrin begin to fray. They have no choice but to flee into the terrifying emptiness of the ancient city of Shadar Logoth, as shadows wait at every corner from the Two Rivers east to the White Tower. So, Daniel, White Cloaks.
I've wondered for years how they're going to make me hate White Cloaks immediately. They did it. I'm more afraid of them than I am of the Trollocs, because the Trollocs will just kill you. The White Cloaks will get off on how they're killing you and take your jewelry, which is just offensive.
Yeah, I was not expecting that one, and what a cold open. That's another scene that's going to stick with me forever.
Obviously, we know from the previous episode, from Moiraine just completely decimating Trollocs, that Aes Sedai are incredibly powerful. Having that like kind of juxtaposed with this image of an Aes Sedai being burned at the stake, it made the White Cloaks a lot scarier than seeing like the jingle of the rings at Amon Valda's belt was just like the most haunting sound I've ever heard. Super visceral and just like, scary.
He was giddy. He loved it. It was so his favorite thing, and that's so upsetting.
I never want to see Valda happy again.
Yep.
There you go. A note to the Wheel of Time on Amazon Prime. No more happy Valda.
Well, I already hated the White Cloaks, and it didn't help one bit. We meet them later in the episode, obviously, and you can kind of see the difference between your normal White Cloaks and your Questioners, and you find out that the Questioners are an extra special brand of crazy, and we haven't seen as much of the other White Cloaks yet, but oh man, how you could eat while a human was burning in front of you is a question that I'll never answer for myself. So yeah, that's where I'm gonna leave that.
The White Cloaks are pretty much one of my favorite inventions from Robert Jordan, because we have a series that is so black and white in some ways of the lines between good and evil. I mean, there's literally creatures called Shadow Spawn. Like, that's a pretty hard line, but the White Cloaks act as a very nice blurring, where they are people who believe they're in the right, and we see that in humans in the real world all the time. People who use ideologies to justify atrocious behavior that they want to do guilt-free, and that's, I think, what makes them probably more terrifying than the Shadow Spawn. The Shadow Spawn aren't real. They're not going to be under your bed. Valda could be under your bed.
Oh my gosh. This is all disturbing me. I don't know if I'm going to get that thought out of my head anytime soon. Appreciate that. That's great. Speaking of villains here, Critter, what were your thoughts about the army that was following them getting cut off at Terran Ferry?
Honestly, when the Murdral or the Fade or the Eyeless or whatever you want to call them sort of swaggered out like to the edge of the water, I was just like, okay, like I see you, but also come at me, you know what I mean? They're already across. And then you saw Moiraine take out the ferry, which ended up killing the ferryman. Like, stakes are high. That scene re-emphasized it, even though obviously last episode we saw an entire town get decimated. They haven't gotten any easier since then. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up the drowning, I think. Rhythm, I'm kind of curious. As a viewer, do you trust Moiraine in this moment?
I don't know. It's definitely very interesting, and I love that scene because it's very reminiscent of like Lord of the Rings. Arwen running away from the Nazgul, it reminded me of that, but then it ends with Moiraine drowning the ferryman, and I think that's like what sets Wheel of Time apart from other fantasy series is like, was Moiraine right to drown the ferryman?
I just want to put forth a point. She did not drown the man. He drowned himself. Okay. She set up a situation, and he decided very selfishly that his family needed rescuing.
Obviously, Daniel is an Aes Sedai sympathizer. Not a White Cloak. Definitely not a White Cloak. I don't know if I trust Moiraine, but she looked great while she was doing it.
Rhythm, I have to ask you then about Egwene, obviously one of your favorite characters. We have this moment where they stop in their journey, and Egwene believes that she's touching the One Power. Did you like this interaction between Moiraine and Egwene, and how did it hit you?
She doesn't immediately trust Moiraine. She definitely like has a little bit of pushback where she's like, how do I know that you're not lying to me? And then Moiraine tells her about the Three Oaths, which I thought was a great sort of world building piece just from like the outside looking in. I was like, oh, this is a great way to sort of work in this lore about the Aes Sedai. And it was great to like sort of compare Egwene's interactions with Moiraine with Nynaeve and Moraine's scene earlier in the first episode. Even though Egwene is very much Nynaeve's mentee, she's coming of age and she's kind of changing her minds about things, and realizing that she can channel is kind of opening her eyes to this whole new world that she never knew was a possibility for her.
Critter, Rand's night turned out a little bit different. He wakes up coughing. How did the bat scene come out for you here?
I mean, horrible. It was not a fun thing to watch. Obviously, once he wakes up in that fashion, you find out that everybody else had a similar dream. It was slightly different because, like, their backs were broken, whereas he literally coughed one up. So, yeah, I didn't love seeing that, but I think it was, again, a good way to tell the story. Their dreams are being infected by the Dark One in some way or another. Yeah. And it's kind of one of those watch and find out what else the Dark One has in store.
What blew my mind is he woke up and the bat was there. So I'm like, Did that happen still? I'm kind of like, what's going on? This is terrifying. And the effect, I don't know how much of it was digital, how much of it was practical, but it made me squirm. Like, it looked really real.
There is a touching moment when they're traveling together. Matt begins to kind of sing, and this leads into the famous lines, "Weep, weep for Manetheren." Were you surprised by this speech? Did you like how this turned out?
I'm going to be honest, in episode 1, I was very disappointed that there's a very iconic scene with Moraine where she actually tells this story to the Two Rivers people, and I was like, oh, that got cut. Like, I get it. It would be a time-consuming monologue, but I'd love to see it there. So seeing it reincorporated along with this song from the Two Rivers party as it's heading out was nice. I'm more just surprised at how good a voice everyone had. If that was really them singing, I was like, props to y'all. You're coming across real well. And it was a good justification for telling that story. So it's a change from the book that I'm like, all right, I can sit with it now because at least you brought it back into the fold. I'll let it go.
I was like, oh, we've got musical numbers now. Like, okay, let's see what we do here. But it was for a really good reason. And also, you know, fantasy books are known for their random musical inserts and like poems and whatnot. And so this just really checked out for me. I liked it.
All of them seem affected by Moraine saying those final words. But we don't really focus on until the moments past this is how Moraine's been injured. She's dealing with an injury here, Critter. You know, did that shock you as she began to kind of lose the preeminence of power of the Aes Sedai and basically become immobile?
Obviously, I was upset because I love superpower Aes Sedai Moraine. She is incredibly OP when it comes to just fighting the occasional Trolloc that shows up. Seeing her suffer really adds dimension to the character. It makes everybody else have to kind of step up. And then the choice that Lan ended up having to make because she wasn't responsive really set them down a path that changed the whole story. So I think it was a really good way to make that happen. Obviously, I felt sorry for her and sad for her, but also was ready to see everybody else step up or down, in Matt's case, into a dagger. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that was well done and sad, but really interesting.
That was actually one of my favorite sequences from the episode. I thought it would be really difficult to justify Matt going off and picking up the knife because within the fan base, it's been a bit of a meme for a while of Moraine saying, "Don't touch anything," and then Matt going and being like... And so I really like that in this, it actually kind of was like, he sees a little bit of a shadow, and I can imagine him going, oh, that's probably Rand over there, let's go check it out. And it wanders him off, and then him being set up as this person who very much so values money, he'd be like, you know what, I'm just gonna put this right in my bucket. So I just liked how it actually kind of did feel natural and earned for the character here.
When it comes to Shadow Logoth, I felt really immersed in that scene. It's this huge city. What was your reaction just to the set that they built for Shadow Logoth?
Oh, it's so beautiful, and it's very, very creepy. It really came through that a lot of these sets were physical and that the actors were actually there. It looked very, very similar to the way that I pictured the city.
I think Critter kind of nailed it on the head where Lan is put in this position of responsibility, and I love that he manages to maintain that face of stoniness, but we get these tiny little glimpses into him being like, internally. And I just think it was a really nice touch to have those tiny little moments where you can tell he is kind of desperate and he's like, I'm not supposed to do this on my own. It felt like the dad who's left with the kid for the first time and he's like, no! Then Moraine tells him, like, you've killed us all. And he has just this, like, defeated crap. Wrong call is made. And then the consequences of that decision are what kick us into episode 3.
Although we do end on a really, really fun beat. Nynaeve shows back up. Was that a surprise? Or how did that, when it came to ending the episode, what did you think?
Well, I've read the books, Matt. No,
She's alive!
Well, I think it was a great transition into episode 3, because I think any viewer is going to be going, wait, what? Who hasn't read the book? Because the last time we saw Nynaeve, she was being yeeted off by a Trolloc, and so it kind of just naturally begs the question, and it also does a really good job of establishing Nynaeve as who she is, which is someone you don't want to F with, to put it in friendly ways. And the fact that she's tracking a Lan, and that's something that he then is like, wait, what? How? It's just delightful.
Critter, before we kind of wrap up here with our discussion of episode 2, kind of any standout either quote or moment for you of this episode?
I feel like, once again, Matt just kind of thrived in the humor department. So one line from him really stood out to me. He said something along the lines of, until then, though, the lady shoots fireballs, so let's try to stay on her good side. Like, when he said that, I was like, yeah.
He might be the smartest one here.
I would be right there with him, for sure. That was the right call. And his delivery is just hilarious. Another one was when Moiraine was talking about the three oaths with Egwene, and she says, we'll always tell the truth, but it won't always be the truth you think you hear. I feel like that really, once again, set up the three oaths to know what to expect when it comes to the Aes Sedai. They're sneaky, and now the general audience knows that.
Going back to the White Cloak scene, watching Moiraine have to navigate that situation where she can't lie was just such a great sort of demonstration of the three oaths. And then a quote that I loved was when the White Cloak is walking away and he's like, that we don't usually deal with Aes Sedai, but they're the only people that can heal you. I feel like that one quote added so much nuance to the White Cloaks, and it really showed that they're not like this monolithic organization. Yeah, Valda is obviously this awful person, but they're not all like that. And all the props to Rosamund Pike for acting like Moiraine, acting like a lady. The layers to that scene were fantastic.
Going off of what you're saying there, I really enjoy that we also get a little bit of Moiraine backstory, because if you pay attention, she can't lie, and she's saying, I'm a noble from a fallen house. So that actually does really smart, clever character building from her for anyone who's paying attention of like, oh, wait, that means she really is. Oh, snap. But if I had to take a favorite quote from the episode, actually, my answer is going to be just Moiraine looking at Lan and saying, then you've killed us. I just think that was such a great just stakes setter, and also just it shook Lan, and seeing an earned shaking of Lan is very rare in the Wheel of Time, and the show pulling one off means they did something right.
Yeah, I loved how this episode ended. Everyone's split up, everyone's unsure in the world, and Moiraine is no longer capable of protecting them. So I love it.
The books, they're something like 14,000 pages in these 14 books. And so when I saw what Rafe did in really just sort of focusing the narrative and highlighting the characters, the story came alive for me in a way that it hadn't, even just reading the books for the first time.
To be able to watch episodes back to back and feel like the heart of this book series was alive made me feel like all of these many, many, many sleepless nights have been worthwhile.
There's so much more behind-the-scenes content where that came from, so make sure to check it out on X-Ray as you watch The Wheel of Time on Prime Video. To access it, press up on your Fire TV remote or tap your mobile device while watching The Wheel of Time. Nynaeve kills a Trolloc. Let's get inside episode 3. Matt's looking for a way out, and Rand's looking for a way to Egwene. And Tom, a gleeman, takes a liking to these two lads. Plus dark friends, wolves, and Egwene and Perrin find safety among the Tinkers. And the Aes Sedai, have captured the Dragon Reborn? So it turns out Nynaeve wasn't dead. Rhythma, what did you think about that cold open?
I was pretty sure that we would see Nynaeve again, but I wasn't quite sure how we would see her again, and I just loved this scene. I think it was great tension, and again, the Trollocs were so scary, and we go back to the pool, which was kind of like the sacred space that Nynaeve said. So for her to run to this space that she feels safe in it made a lot of sense. And then obviously just her stabbing a Trolloc in that pool felt right. Very sacred. and very awesome. When this Trolloc bleeds out, it bleeds out into the shape of the Dragon Fang, which was pretty great. It was a nice little touch.
That Trolloc basically like infects that pool.
I kind of took the pool scene in a different way. Instead of the Trolloc corrupting the pool, it felt like the light prevailed. You know, he like stepped into her territory, this sacred place, and she just dominated him, which is so naive. So yeah, I didn't think he corrupted. I think she used the light or whatever to her benefit and just totally owned.
Well, we've somehow glossed over the fact that this starts with a Trolloc going up to an injured Trolloc and being like, hey, Steve, you haven't... Okay, whack. And then just eating his friend, which was so good.
I was hoping I wouldn't have to think of that again.
I'm here to remind you of the nasty bits. And from there, I just want to say mad props to Zoe Robbins, because the physicality of what she had to go through for just this cold open, from being dragged to sprinting in that dress, which I'm sure is not easy, submerging yourself in the pool, fighting someone in a giant costume, that seems like it would have been a lot.
We obviously then jump back to Nynaeve in the moment of holding Lan captive, if you will, at sword points. Critter, did this surprise you when Nynaeve took a stab at Lan?
Not at all. Nynaeve is a warrior princess. Honestly, she's like the fiercest character in the entire Wheel of Time. If anybody is going to do that to protect their friends, it's her. So everything that she did in this episode, I basically just thought, yeah, that absolutely tracks. Yeah. And from that to her ultimately trying to take care of Moiraine, it's like, yeah, that also tracks, because she's a caregiver, she's a healer at heart, she's the village wisdom, and there's a reason for that. She's got so many dimensions, you know, she's like an onion, and that's part of the reason that I love her.
I love Lan's reaction to it. He was like, you actually tried to kill me. It was one of those classic moments that, again, comes across just perfectly. But one of the other kind of moments that I was excited to see were honestly the adventures of Mat and Rand. The Brayan Spring, I think, is where they end up, and listening to a new character that we're introduced to, Tom, the Gleeman. How excited were you to see him enter the Wheel of Time?
This is gonna sound really embarrassing, but I had to like pause, squeal, and walk around a little bit, just like pace around my room, because I was like, oh my god, it's Tom. His voice is so gravelly, and it has this texture to it that I just love, and Tom singing a song is absolutely the way that he should have been introduced. I don't think it's a song that we've heard before in the books, and it definitely has to do with The Dragon Reborn. It was very on theme. So yeah, I think Tom's introduction was fantastically done, and I loved it.
I think he was the highlight of this episode for me in every single way. I think his personality was just on point, and his interactions with Mat especially built both of their characters and gave Mat a little bit of redemption as well, which I think he needed at this point. He's riding this line right now of likable and not. I knew they've gotten Tom right the moment where Rand is confronted with this dark friend, and suddenly there's just a knife coming out of her, and we have Tom basically being like, it's a dark friend, come on, let's go. I just really enjoy how his experience and his actual just comfortability with doing what needs to be done in this world contrasts so thoroughly with these two farmers who are just staring at this dark friend, unsure what to do, and then you have this guy who's just like, done. We're moving on. Let's go.
It's a whole new type of villain that we haven't seen yet. Getting to see a human who has chosen the side of the bad is entirely something else. It makes it so much more dangerous for them, because you can't just tell when you look at a person whether they're a threat or not. And I feel like this whole sequence with the Dark Friend really just emphasized how much charisma both Rand and Mat really have, because like they're flirting with this girl. Honestly, I was just like, wow, like, okay, I love these guys. This is nice. So it felt like it was a whole different side of Rand and Mat flirting with this girl, Rand unintentionally. Yeah, I love this whole sequence. I thought it was even more world building, but also just really entertaining.
The manipulation of, was the braid too similar to Egwene, just made me get chills, and I was like, you son of a...
Dark Friends is an awesome layer to add to the complexity of this world. And so maybe let me jump to you, Daniel, on this. Other layers that you saw coming into, or episode 3, like what else did we get added into our understanding, or maybe questions for the Wheel of Time?
It was so fun to see Rand and Matt kind of take opposing sides and have a little debate at the beginning, where Rand, who previously was like, I want to go home, is suddenly like, oh, Egwene, I need to go find Egwene. And then Matt's like, no, let's dip. And it led to my favorite line we've seen so far in the series, which is Rand saying, all roads lead to Tarvalin, and Matt responding, that's not how roads work, which was comedic genius that was delivered flawlessly and got a genuine, like, belly laugh out of me. Seeing them not just be friends and have the Sam Frodo vibe, but instead we see more of a combativeness between these two, made it so much more interesting, because it's again how this diverges from a lot of the typical fantasy we've gotten up to this point.
Rhythma, there is we're kind of introduced to a new group of people. What did you think about the wolves driving Perrin and Egwene towards the Tinkers?
I wonder if those wolves are significant. Yeah, I love the Tuatha. Even in the books, I love them as like their whole concept, this idea of the way of the leaf. And I think that Maria Doyle Kennedy did a fantastic job of portraying this woman who is picking peace and nonviolence in the face of, in a world where it's incredibly violent and we've seen a lot of just horrible stuff. It was really refreshing to see this alternative lifestyle where, you know, these people are welcoming and open, and I felt like I could rest a little bit, like in the same way where, you know, Perrin and Egwene get to kind of chill out. I think it was really good, and it was good in a narrative sense where we get to kind of, you know, just rest a little bit and kind of vibe out with these cool people. And yeah, I love the Tinkers. They're awesome.
I was going to say, place of safety works. It works for them, not so much with Matt and Rand. So I love how they kind of played against this idea of like, this looks like safety. Is this really? And makes us wonder about the Tinkers. But yeah, we do have to jump back to the wolves here, right, Critter? Like, in the end of the day, what do you think as a viewer right now, episode 3, the wolves? Is this a positive, negative? You know, what's going on with the wolves?
I mean, so far only positive, right? We've got a wolf that comes up and licks Perrin, really nice. Yeah, we've got the wolves steering them to the Tinkers, which was obviously really nice. And even in episode 1, if I'm remembering right, they talk about the wolves sort of like coming down from the mountains a little bit, and so there's a lot of stuff going on with the wolves, and so far so good. You know, I kind of like the wolves at this point, and I'm assuming we'll see more from them as the season continues.
I think that's a good guess. I think I have to go back to Daniel and Tom. What are you hoping for at this point as a viewer about Tom? We know that he's now killed this dark friend. You know, what is next for Tom and Matt and Rand in your mind?
For me, to get Tom right, you need to keep that layer of mystery that's so important to him in the books, and so far they're nailing that. He's just this man who's shown up and for some reason seems to be somewhat interested in taking after our 2 boys who are not so good at taking after themselves. And so it kind of makes you infinitely question, why is he coming in and doing this? And that's something I felt pretty much until the very end of the Wheel of Time. You learn to understand the why of Tom, but not the exact reasons, and that's just so much fun. And I think that's what makes him so compelling as a mentor/guardian character, who is going to be a wonderful opposition as a guardian to Moraine, because they have slightly different vibes. Slightly.
Motivations. That's a great question for me to come out of episode 3. Like, we've now been introduced to so many villains, potential villains, you know, so many groups, if you will, animals, you know, that appear to have motivations. You know, there's so many questions that come out of this. Critter, what is a question that you are left with at the end of episode 3, just as a viewer, about where this is going?
When do they get back together? You know, they seem so scattered right now, and obviously they all seem like they're landing on, we're going to end up in one place, and we're just kind of waiting for that to happen, and excited but also nervous, because you've seen Rand, you know, he wants to get back with Egwene, but then he's also always skeptical about Moraine, and those two apparently go together these days. And Matt, obviously, wanting to go back home, but then needing to follow Tom and making that, like, spur-of-the-moment decision. It's all roads lead to Tar-Valon, so here we are. I guess we'll see that happen in the next episode, perhaps.
Matt's like, that's not how roads work.
I know.
At this point, it feels like everyone's kind of diverging in their storyline, and I'm curious to see, like, how is this going to play out? And we have a lot of different, like, the conflict seems to be even more complex in this episode with, like, even within the group, we're starting to have, like, you know, characters going against each other. And it's not just them versus the Dark Friends. There's also starting to be conflict within the group. So, yeah, it's a lot more conflict in this episode.
The biggest question I found myself wondering and actually feeling kind of tense over is, when is that Fade gonna show up again? Because I know he's still on the trail, and there's a Fade who his face is just gonna appear, popping out of a shadow somewhere. And boy, I hope it's not with a blades pertly penetrating someone in the back.
Oh, these are awesome questions to have ended this episode with. I love it. Any final notes for your critter? Any final quote out there that you from this episode? Is there anything else that kind of stands out to you from episode 3 before we finish up?
My favorite line of the entire episode was when Rand was like, "We can take turns," and Matt was like, "If you think she's up for it." I literally just died. I couldn't believe that happened in a Wheel of Time show, but I'm living for it. I think it was great.
Rand and Matt were definitely a highlight, and I just love when Rand was like, "We're not together." Like, that made me, I love that they went there. I love that they went there, and it was great.
My immediate thought was, why not? No.
Have you thought about it, though?
Thank you 3 for being here and breaking down episode 3 with me, and I can't wait to get back together and chat about the next episode. Until then, see y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Such fun interviews and great conversation, and here's a look at what's to come in episode 4. Has the real dragon been captured? Was Moraine's search in vain, and will our Two Rivers friends make it to Tar-Valon without her? Find out this Friday when the next The Wheel of Time episode drops. That's it, my friends. Don't forget to hashtag your reactions throughout the season, and we'll do our best to feature your comments in next week's episode. And here is what you all had to say. DA13 Harris tweeted, "I'm so impressed by the cast and how exquisitely they all embody the characters they portray. I couldn't agree more. The characters make the books as the cast has made the show." McGuane tweeted, "I've loved Wheel of Time since 2005 and have always wanted a film adaptation. I was so elated to see it on screen that I couldn't stop crying for half of episode 1. I just love it unconditionally and at this point can see no wrong. McGuane, it is surreal and deserves your love." Easing the Reader tweeted, "Watched it with my wife who never went near the books in the 11 years I've known her. She's hooked. Loves Matt, Egwene, and Tom. No idea who the dragon is and can't wait for next week. It's not just you. My teens loved what they saw. That's what I wanted. A show my family could enjoy." Red Hand Bard tweeted, "I'm starting a rewatch soon, but I can't stop thinking about this. The characters all feel as if they leapt off the page. I'm stunned at how alive the actors made them feel." I agree 100%. Fans, let us know who you think has leapt off the page and stunned you the most. And on that note, a huge thank you to our special guest tonight. We can't wait to dive deep into episode 4. Oh, what an age it is to be a Wheel of Time fan, and this has been a beginning I will never forget. I'm your host and innkeeper, Matt Hatch. Thank you for joining us inside the Wheel of Time.
Whoa, oh my god! I see the
See you later.
We have to try everything.
Drink. I'll be taking this later.
I don't care about the show. I just want a good blooper reel.
I want to learn science.
You guys are going to make me look like I'm in the show, right? You're going to put in the effects. Replace the green. I don't want to look like an asshole here.
Sorry.